I have built these vertical bits that represent the bases of the cranes, and now I'm going to work on these parts, the spans first, and then the cabs and counterweights and stuff. So what I've done is I've taken my various boxes of red and cut them into strips, and I am gluing these together. I may need to, at the end of everything, when they're put together, I may need to shore them up a little tiny bit with some sort of metal thing to keep them from flopping around. They're relatively lightweight, and they're going to be glued, super glued to the column that I'm going to be putting these things on. Not super glued, hot glued to the column. So the vertical bases will not fall down, but the arms are these things, these parts, and the strings, the cables holding them, they will stick out over the gallery floor. These will all be suspended. They'll be against the column, but the arms will come out above the heads of the tallest visitors, provided we have any life on this planet in a month and a half, even less than a month. I imagine we're not going to be able to have an opening because of this hoax, this democratic hoax that is killing people. I guess the Democrats are climbing through your windows at night when you're not looking and infecting you with this hoax. I don't know, what are they saying on Fox News about this thing now? I imagine they're saying that it's a Democratic hoax and that we're politicizing it somehow, even though I don't know how letting people know about this thing was going to happen is political. I think it's, you know, if they say only the Democrats can fix it, that might be political. But our president, our fearless leader, is of course saying that it's a hoax. So we can believe him. We've believed him on everything else, right? We know that the wall is being built, and that all Mexicans are bad hombres, and that Russia didn't do anything, and his phone calls are perfect. But so of course we believe him when he says that he has a hunch that that this is going to be fine. No one's going to die, right? Meanwhile, I'm making this. For those of you that are sort of interested to know the truth, I imagine it will come out eventually, but for those of you that are enjoying your time off of work, glad you're watching me. You could be doing something else, but you're watching me instead. And if you are a Republican and you voted for Donald Trump, I don't think there's any reason why you need to watch me, because I think I use big words and talk about complex things from time to time, and I wouldn't want to strain your poor little brain by making you think, because clearly you didn't during the last election. Some of these people that I hear talking about how bad Trump is for the country, and they voted for him, and they somehow act surprised, like they didn't know that this was going to happen. How could you not know that? Did you not listen to anything he said during his campaign? Was there anything he said during his campaign that would have convinced you that he was going to actually be good at being a president? So, anyway, changing from politics to this, I'm using 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 different colors of red to create these things for fun. There are 3 cranes I can see out of my window at the end of the hall, and they're 2 look like they're built by the same company, and then there's one that's a little bit off in its design. It might be a different company, it might be an improved design, and maybe who knows what. And I may choose to use a different method to show that difference, like have them all be exactly only one color red, but I think that would be not as interesting. I like the subtle variations you see here. So I've got to make 3 things that are at least this long, maybe a little longer. Well, I'm going to make them this long to start. There is a tapered bit, solid tapered bit at the end of each of these that I will add. I want to look in the binoculars to see if they're red or they're black, because I do want them to be somewhat realistic. But the light was coming in from the direction. I was seeing kind of a silhouette. Everything was black, though I knew from seeing these before that they were not, in fact, black. They were red. But there are elements of it that are black. I know that the vertical bits that, not the vertical bits, but this part, those are black, and the cables are black, but the other parts of it are red. I think the counterweights might be black. I don't know. They're quite fascinating to watch, though, these cranes. In fact, all of the construction that I see around me is really quite fun. So sometimes I put the cross bits on top of. You're going to see only really one side of these things. You're not going to see both sides. So, shit. I mean, you will see the back if you walk around, but I'm only making them really to be observed from the one side. So I'm not going to add all sorts of extra weight by making both sides red. I mean, painters that paint portraits don't draw the back of the head, paint the back of the head on the back of the picture, do they? Sculptors, on the other hand, do. And though these are sculptural, I think of these as drawings. In fact, when I used to be making three-dimensional drawings, I called them drawings, three-dimensional drawings. I made objects that looked real out of white or some later black paper, and I was pretty well known for that locally. I got a couple of state grants, and I got a National Endowment for the Arts grant for the artwork that I was making at the time. And my muse died on me. Here I made this upside down. I glued the wrong side. Put that on. Sometimes I put the glue on the brown side, and sometimes I put the glue on the red side. And I forget. So now I'm doing it on the red side, so you see it. Anyway, but my muse for that sort of work died. This work is probably the closest kind of stuff I've done to it in a while, because I'm creating some of the same subjects by drawing these big construction things, but unlike the earlier ones I did were essentially life-size, and I did make life-size steam shovel buckets, but I could never make the life-size version of this. I'll go on this side, do some on the outside. So I know sometimes when I'm drawing and I'm thinking about things, I think a lot about where I'm going to put this piece, and I'll try it here, and I'll try it there, and I'll try it here, and I'll try it there, and then I'll decide. And other times, like now, I'm just winging it. I'm not thinking as much as I could, and that's part of the playful aspect of this work that I'm doing. Is I don't want to overthink it, because then it's not going to be play. God damn it. It's going to be too much work. Now, I do think a little bit more about when I'm placing these things on the diorama. Do I want this steam shovel next to that one, or do I want to have that one next to the other one? Do I want to group these three together, or do I want to have these three not together? And most of these things that I've been doing, I've been sort of grouping them in a way where they have friends, brethren that are next to them that look good, look like they make sense together. And other times, most of the time I do that, but sometimes I'll throw a odd man out just for shits and giggles. I'll, in this, and I do that on a small scale. Like on this thing here, I might have a girder that has a little bit of white in it, just to spark it up. It's like the lump in your mashed potato. Oh yeah, these are homemade, you'll say to yourself. They're not out of a box. So sometimes that's good. So we've got sort of two done. I may add some more little ones here and there, thin ones, just for these. Some of these things I make are really clumsy and clunky, and other ones I make are quite refined. The one that I made the other day is a little bit more realistic. Excuse me, pardon me. A little bit more realistic than some, because I was looking out of my window as I was making it, and the thing I was drawing, thing that I was making, was out my window so I could see it, and I was a little bit more conscious of making the thing look like the real one. And when I do some of my other ones, I'm working from drawings I've made, sketches that I made out in the real world, and sometimes I'm using my imagination. I know enough of what a steam shovel looks like to be able to make one without looking at it. I know the parts of a steam shovel. I know the parts of a car or a bicycle. So I can draw it without needing to look at it. But when I do look at anything, even if it's something that I think I understand, there's always some little element that I don't understand. Like, oh yeah, there's that extra pulley. And of course, on the real thing, these cranes, there's not, other than maybe a painted logo or something, there's not one thing that's really put on there if it doesn't have a reason for it to be there. So most of these things are pretty devoid of anything that is there for decoration. So if there is a pulley or a joint or a piston or a brace, it's there to keep it from falling apart. So I don't know where I was going with that statement. Maybe there was a part of the sentence at the beginning that made sense, but I was saying it for a purpose. I don't remember what that purpose was, because I got sidetracked, but maybe you can figure it out. Or not. If you can't, guess what I was trying to say in your answers below. Okay, which half of them am I going to glue? I'll glue put this on the top, just for, again, variety's sake. See, when it's on the somewhere on the top, somewhere on the bottom, it sort of implies there's this dimensionality to it, which of course there is. Even a flat drawing has dimensionality. The ink or the lead adds width to the thing, but even just when these things are seen on the wall, the shadows that are actually cast on these things add oomph, for lack of a better term, to the thing. Okay, I'll start another one. Some of these things are a little bit fatter than others. These are from Nike or New Balance boxes, or both. And when I was cutting them on my paper cutter, some of them got, and the reason I'm tearing these in half, tearing these in two, they're not exactly in half, but tearing them in two is there's a crease from the fold in the original box, and that's a weak point, so I'm just removing the weak point. These are going to be flimsy enough as they are, so not have to deal with extra flimsiness being added into it. So I'm choosing some larger pieces here. There's going to be slight variety of sizes and lengths, just to imply a little tiny bit of distance, a little bit of a geometric perspective in the pieces. And then when I mount them, when I decide, the biggest decision I'm going to be making, I think, is how I'm going to arrange these. That's broken. You know, how close are they going to be together? Which, you know, there's two that are going to be facing in one direction, and one will be facing in the other direction. And which one will be which, I don't know yet. And you know, one will be sort of more erect. Okay, add your Beavis and Butthead giggle whenever I say things like that. One will be more erect than the other. One will be more sticking up, where others are going to be sticking out. I guess I need... Come on, another thick one. No. Yes. No. Yes. This one has a little bit of black on it, but that's okay. This is also a different kind of box. Different color. One of these was New Balance and one was Adidas or Nike, I think, actually. Did I say that already? Okay, this is going to go down here. So I'll probably end up, you know, setting these things out on the floor and arranging them until I find a composition that I like, and then I'll take a picture of it or do a drawing of it so I know what to do. I have to assemble this in the gallery because it's going to be too big. So there'll be a base around the base of the column that will contain the 3 vertical ladders. I'll just call them a ladder. They look like a ladder. 3 vertical ladders, and you know, one will be, let's say, you know, one will be sort of further back, and then there'll be 2 that are closer together by a little bit. And then they'll be on the ground toward the bottom. There'll be 2 might be together, one might be closer up, I don't really know. And then the tops of them, how tall they are, will be another factor to consider. And then which way the arms are going will be a third factor. So that's the deal. So and that's, you know, how many factors are there? There's 3 sizes, 3 sizes and 2 directions times whatever to come up with whatever. Whenever it gets to probability and how many permutations of something, I always I forget how to do the math for that. Is it 3 times 3 times 3? So that's 27 different things. And I know I have more than 3 because I've got well, I've got one will be, there'll be two that are going to be close, and one will be further away. So that's, but which way are the close ones, the pair, going to be on the left or on the right? So that's one consideration. Then we've got the length. I probably will have the tallest one in the middle for balance sake. So that's been decided. But is the tall one in the middle going to be next to the shortest one or next to the next tallest one? Probably for balance again. See here, I'm figuring things out even before. The tall one in the middle will have to be next to the smaller one, because the pair, half of the pair includes the middle. So the tallest and the shortest will be at one side, and then the middle one would be, the baby bear is going to be with the daddy bear, and the mama bear will be alone. See, I'm figuring this out. You can watch. Those of you that voted for Trump, you don't understand any of this, but all the rest of you will understand. So, Mama Bear will be by herself, and I think Mama Bear will be aiming her crane out. Daddy Bear and Baby Bear will be aiming their cranes. One will be toward the middle, and the other will be out. And then, of course, you have to decide which one of these is going to be erect, more erect or more horizontal. Now, I suppose it makes sense that Daddy Bear be erect, right? But Daddy Bear, being that it's the tallest, his has to be horizontal. I think the smallest one will be tallest because from the point of view of my gallery space, it'll hit the ceiling. The tallest one is erect, it'll hit the ceiling. So I don't want that. I should be writing this down so I don't have to redo it later, right? I do like when there's this little extra three-dimensional aspect of the edge of the box. Now, another thing, actually, God damn it, these cranes have this U-shaped spar, yard arm, whatever it would be called, that are connected to the cable to the span here. And this hold the pulleys that, go down to the motor. So it's U-shaped, but from the side it's straight. You don't see the U-shape. So, if I showed the U-shape, I would be seeing a 3/4 version of this, which means I would see a 3/4 version of this as well. So you'd see 4 of these spans. And I'm not going to deal with that, because it'll be solid red, and I don't want it to be solid red. So there's a little bit of artistic license, otherwise known as mistakes. Artistic. I was watching a YouTube video last night, a PBS show about Drawn to Yosemite, it was called. Yosemite? Yellowstone, Drawn to Yellowstone. And it was about the artists and the photographers that first went to Yellowstone to record its wonderment, because the people that actually had seen it had come home and told their neighbors and their family about it, and they all thought they were lying. So they sent an expedition that had a cameraman and a painter to record what they actually saw. And why am I telling you this story? Oh, yes, I remember now. The guy that was the painter, he took some artistic license and moved this mountain a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right, made this waterfall, you know, the light hitting from the side, even though it wouldn't have hit from the side. You know, he rotated things around and moved things around so that you could see, he could make the drawing look, the painting in this case, look pretty by changing a few things around. And it's like when you see those ocean liner pictures where they are coming into New York Harbor, and you've got, you know, the Statue of Liberty here, and you've got the Eiffel Tower here, and you've got the Empire State Building here, and you've got the tugboats here and the tugboats there, and then you have the fucking Queen Mary coming in like this. And they'll show a sailboat down here, a three-masted sailboat down here, about to be run over by the excuse me, but by the ocean liner. Bad COVID-19. But what's funny is, and they'll show little tiny people, like right here, and little tiny people down here on the tugboat. Little itty bitty tiny people. Except when you look at the boat, you see a porthole there, and the next porthole there, and the next porthole here, and the next porthole there. You'll see 4 decks, which means the people are this big. The decks between decks on ocean liners are very low. I mean, the ceilings are low. There's not a lot of space above your head. And they exaggerate the hell out of those pictures to make the boat look big, and that's what this guy did with Yosemite. I believe he made the trees look a little bit smaller, so the mountain looked a little bit bigger, and he made the people, I think, a lot smaller. Yes, Yellowstone, I'm sorry, not Yosemite. Yellowstone is big, mountains are big, waterfalls are tall, but when you're drawing a picture or taking a picture with a camera, and you are in the foreground and the mountain is in the background, the mountain gets small pretty quick. And on these paintings, the mountains are pretty damn big. Okay, now I think what I'll do is I'll stop and upload this picture and then go look through my binoculars and see if I can find what the color of the various other elements are, so I can build the cabs. I might have made these too long, but hell with it. Bye.